300 members called Texas Board of Volunteers. And our charter, I'm a little loud now.
No.
Okay, our charter says that we do two things. We educate people about problems of illegal immigration, which is what I'm doing here now, and then we assist law enforcement. And the law enforcement agency that we assist is the U.S. Border Patrol. We are...
Got a little too much gain. Start to get just a little feedback. Not much.
I need to go down. Let's try it. How's this? Is this better? How's this? Better?
Better, yeah.
If you have a problem with it, let me know. Yeah, a little bit of feedback.
Still seems like a little bit. I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. This organization deals with, the field part of it, deals with the Border Patrol checkpoint on U.S. Highway 281 between McAllen and 281 feeds into Highway Interstate 27 between Amarillo, north of Corpus Christi. It's a major route into the United States for illegal immigration. It's probably, arguably, the busiest point for illegal immigration in Texas. That's, nobody really knows, but it's way up there. More than any place out here in West Texas, by the way. And so I'm going to go through a PowerPoint presentation, and we will see how that goes, and we'll describe a little about what we do, what's involved. There's some of this that is going to be a little bit. Now there's a few bones in this, and there's one dead body, and so if that offends any of you all, I'll zip through it or something. Why? Let's see.
So my computer's still on. We really need that before I speak in
Yeah, here we go.
practice.
Okay, this is a photograph of our some of our people as we look when we're doing a border watch. Some people are on ATVs, and some people are on foot. Generally, what we do is we post. I'll go into that because we'll go through all this. This occurs in Brooks County, Texas. Falfurrias is the county seat of Brooks County. We're about 7 miles south of Falfurrias on U.S. Highway 281, and about 5 miles roughly north of the U.S. Border Patrol checkpoint. The Border Patrol checkpoint there, by the way, has 300 officers in support, and I'm not sure how large the San Angelo Police Department is, but it's about the same size as the whole Midland Police Department. This is our headquarters on the Vickers Ranch. The Vickers House, let's see if I can. The Vickers House is up here, and the actual horse, we're sort of headquarters in the tack room of the ranch. This is the Border Patrol checkpoint, Falfurrias checkpoint. This is, they post outside the checkpoint their year-to-date statistics. And this particular video was made in 2009. I don't have anything newer than that here. But at that point, they had captured 119,000 illegal immigrants going through that checkpoint. And I'm not sure whether it's probably 43,000 pounds. I think there's a digit missing there of illegal drugs. This is what a typical watch group looks like. There are both men and women. We range in age from probably the 30s. Occasionally get somebody younger than that involved. This is Dr. Vickers, who is the head of our organization, and this is his wife, Linda. We'll talk a little about that. And these are our little members. So we have various vehicles that we use to go out and post with, and that's kind of what we got there. All kinds of people. One of the big troubles with illegal immigration, one of my biggest problems why I do this, is that we don't vet illegal immigrants until we catch them. The legal immigrants are vetted, presumably pretty well by the federal government, so that we know if they've got diseases or what their issues are. These patches were found on one of the ranches that is adjacent to the Vickers Ranch. It wasn't found there. And they are Mid-Eastern. One of them is a martyr patch for somebody who's supposed to be a martyr, suicide bomber. They were found on some cloth, and I don't know much about that, but they found it. This is a picture of the Border Patrol arresting 2 people. These were found in a backpack down. There was a drop down there, and these are child tax credits for 3 children that all had the same number and the same tax filer. Apparently, someone was trying to get tax credits for children so you get more returns on their taxes. They look like they have made up Social Security numbers. Excuse me. Governor Rick Perry has pointed out to job growth in Texas is during the current economic downturn is one of the main accomplishments, but analysis of current population survey data indicates that by the Census Bureau shows that illegal immigrants, immigrants legal and illegal, have been the primary beneficiaries of our growth, not native-born workers. So as we've gained jobs, many of them have been actually jobs for illegal immigrants. I don't really think that's true out here in West Texas. We've got people coming here from all over. Illegal immigration is exposing Americans to dangerous diseases: hepatitis, cholera, diphtheria, dengue fever, plaque, smallpox, SARS, and TB. This is a very real problem. The borders have traditionally been places where illegal immigrants are screened for diseases. We found stuff. I knew a woman that worked for out in El Paso, and she found a case of gosh, can't remember it now. It's a bad disease where your fingers and stuff fall off.
Leprosy?
Leprosy. Leprosy is largely unknown. Some of these people are coming in from places where TB is prevalent. We have almost no TB anymore, as you all know down here in San Angelo. I don't know what's going to happen. Some of that TB is antibiotic resistant as well. This is the founder of Texas Board of Volunteers, Mike Vickers. And let's see. shows, this slide sort of shows what goes on. Basically, the illegal immigrants pay money to get, and almost nobody, when I was a kid, most of the illegal immigrants in the United States waded the river, and then they worked on ranches and went farther and farther north, and they picked crops and things like that. That kind of illegal immigrant is very rare today. And they just kind of walk northward. Today, the illegal immigrant pays people to take them across the river, and then they pay people to hide them in stash houses in the towns and cities along the border, and then they pay people to take them up and get them around the Border Patrol checkpoint. What they do is they live in the stash house for a few days, and then they load them up when they get a load, and they take them out with a guide. And the guide, a coyote, we often call guides them around, and they walk through the sand. Soil around here is a fine, what once was a beach sand. They walk around the Border Patrol checkpoint through the bush, and then they're picked up back on the highway or on another road north of there. And over the years, millions of people have done this. Hundreds of thousands have passed through here in the last 5 years. There's a lot. You'll see some pretty big groups later. But that's basically what's going on. If a person cannot keep up, they will leave them out there, just drop them. And all of these people are not farm hands. Some of these people are from cities, and they don't know. Pat Kennedy, my friend here, who comes from Midland, has actually been involved with the Border Volunteer Movement longer than I have. One time was out on a watch, first one I was ever at, and she spotted a group of Chinese. They come from all over the world. And how many were in that group, Pat? 12. Okay. And we're going to show some pictures of some of these people in a few minutes. But anyway, that's kind of what, this is generally the picture of what goes on. Okay, this is Dr. Vicker's wife, Linda, and she's looking for tracks on her horse. She rides competitively. This is a picture of one of my friends who's sitting out on a watch. And when we post, we go out, and it's a little like deer hunting, only there's no blind. And it's usually done in the dark, although sometimes during the day. And we go out, and usually take a chair or something with us, and sit down and just in a secluded spot that has a good view, and wait. So there's a lot of sitting and waiting. And sometimes you sit and wait and you don't see a thing. And sometimes it goes on for days, and then all of a sudden, things happen. Another friend. Another friend. Okay. Sometimes, most of the time, what happens is you're in a secluded spot, and they walk past you. And that's the best way. So occasionally someone will come out of the bush and they'll approach you and basically give up. We usually in that case give them water, and we call our radio and get the Border Patrol out there to pick them up. It is illegal for an American citizen to transport an illegal alien in a vehicle for any reason whatsoever, including a medical emergency. That's in the federal law, read it. But you can call the Border Patrol and tell them you have an emergency, and they can handle it. I mean, if you declare an emergency. Generally, just the sighting of an illegal immigrant is not an emergency. They answer the call as they can. And usually it's pretty quick, actually. Sometimes within 5 minutes. I've seen it take up to 2 hours, but rarely today. We've got a bit much bigger Border Patrol than we used to. The Border Patrol is assisted by helicopters. And they are a very effective tool in apprehension of illegal immigrants. They use mostly two kinds. They use helicopters that are the Border Patrols, and they use helicopters from the DPS, from the Texas Rangers. And the DPS helicopters are, I've never seen an agency work as well with the Border Patrol or any other federal agency, a state agency, as they work with the Border Patrol. I've seen them, when they need a helicopter, try to get their own, and then they'll call for the Texas. You hardly ever see the feds call for it. This is an aerial photograph, and it shows where our headquarters is. And the area that we watch is basically this section here and this area down in here, from here over to there, and that whole area. It's, as I said before, it's mott's or little groves of trees and pasture land. These are pictures of a hunting cabin on an adjacent ranch that was, the immigrants apparently stopped there and vandalized it, tore it apart. And it's not real clear why they wanted to do that, but they did. And it's sometimes they steal things, and sometimes they just tear stuff up. I know there's all kinds of people that are illegal immigrants, and some of them are very bad people, and some of them are not. But they also bend fences. This is a fairly common practice. If they want to bring a big group over, they'll just bend the fence down. The other thing they do, and this aggravates the ranchers, is they come in and they want to drink the water. Of course, they don't want to drink out of the pond, so they'll break the plastic pipe that goes up so that they can just drink straight out of the plastic pipe instead of trying to go over and drink in the stock tank. That makes the water, the other thing they'll do is they'll break the, or tear off the little float valve that shuts the water off when the tank is full. So it causes the tank to overflow and waste groundwater. And it also, if they break it, nobody comes out and finds it, the level of the tank goes down and the cow can't get anything to drink. That's not good, obviously. Some of the ranchers have built ladders to keep them from tearing their fences down. They built ladders over the fences. They also leave, most of them carry a 1-gallon plastic water bottle on this deal, and so they leave their water bottles when they think they're getting picked up. Generally, the illegal immigrants are concerned that there might be Border Patrol sensors, and so they don't climb over even if there's a ladder, they'll go under or cut the fence, and, which allows the cattle to get out from the ranch, get out on the highway, and then if they get hit, the rancher is the one that's liable for something he never did. They never pick up, my experience has been that they never pick up anything. If they have things that they don't want anymore, they just drop them on the ground. Even if we give them, if they look like they're dying, and we give them water bottles, bottles of water, when the Border Patrol gets there, they leave them on the ground. They have no concept of not littering. Keep Texas beautiful, or whatever it is a thing alien, a concept alien to them. I don't understand why there isn't litter in their countries, not much. They leave clothing out, and like I said, in water bottles and all kinds of other matters. More of that. There's a huge amount of litter down to show him, but when they bring things to eat, they usually have little cans of food, and they usually open the little cans, and they leave, of course, leave the little cans there. They drink a lot of Red Bull and energy drinks. They seem to do this a lot. And sometimes they take cocaine with it. Makes them real fast. This is a litter picked up in one weekend down there, to give you an idea how much trash they leave. Okay. This is talking about the checkpoint. Maybe that's the end of it. I think that's the end of it. We have been on, yeah, this is one of the National Geographic, we've been featured on National Geographic on the board several times. And these are large groups that we've seen. I've personally reported several groups in the 15, 20 range. I don't think I've ever reported a group over 20. In the 15, 17, 18 range is fairly common. These are immigrants. Sometimes you see the people and you're not real sure that they're workers. Sometimes they're, this is a typical coyote guide. Usually what he does is he goes ahead of the group, leads them, and then he calls for a pickup on a cell phone. He's on the cell phone now. These are illegal immigrants from China, and we picked up the trail of and seen several groups from China. They're usually, they come over here. My understanding is that they're usually paid for by their Chinese relatives in the United States. It varies some more Chinese. This is a very expensive trip for them. China, $14,000 or $15,000. The cartels charge people other than Mexicans approximately twice, and other than Central Americans, people from the Americas, they charge them a lot more, like 3 times. So they have to pay a lot more to be let across. The Border Patrol is in this area because so many people have died in the summer. They have put up little emergency beacons so that they can ask for help. Sometimes they'll ask for help and turn themselves in if they can, if they're in distress. We don't want anyone to die out there. No one wants that. And they all have to do is go up, and it says clearly in, I think, 7 or 8 languages, if you push this button, we'll come and help you, basically. And what happens is it sends out a radio signal, and they come out and they pick them up. And they use it sometimes. This is a woman from Eritrea, which is a country in Africa. It split off in the 1960s, I think, might be 70s, from Ethiopia. They fought a bad civil war. And she was found out there with another small group. I think they were Chinese, and they were being led across. We reported them, and the Border Patrol came out and picked them up. I was rather surprised because we don't get many people from Eritrea. I think she's the only one I ever saw from Africa. This is a fairly large group, and the Border Patrol is there, and they have cited that they're under arrest. They're coming out of the bush. More pictures from the same group. They bring them out to the road. They typically sit them down on the road, and then the Border Patrol brings their little wagons in, little 4-wheel drive pickup trucks with these, they're like little paddy wagons, and they bring them in, and they put them in the paddy wagon, and they drive them back to town, and there they process them. The illegal immigrants from Mexico, they've not been here, this is my understanding of the way it goes today. If they've not been captured more than 6 times, they're taken back everyone is identified. They're not always forthcoming as to what country they come from. They are fingerprinted. We check to see who they are, try to figure out who they are, where they came from. Mexican citizens, if they've not got any U.S. warrants against them and haven't been arrested more than 6 times, are put together and held until they get a bus load, and they take them back to the middle of the bridge and back the bus up to the middle of the bridge, and they let them out again. Everyone else, all the people from other countries, which are called OTMs for short, other than Mexican, are returned to their country of origin. There are a few exceptions to that, but they are generally returned to their country of origin. So we take them to some place, they're held until we get an airplane load, and then they're flown back to their country. Like Hondurans are flown back to Tegucigalpa, and they are let go there. This is actually a very effective method of dealing with Central Americans, because it's very hard and very expensive for them to get up here. And if you take them back a few times, they probably try to find something else to do since come up here. That's a pretty effective method, actually, in my opinion. There were a lot of misconceptions about the border and about illegal immigration, more illegal immigrants. This is a couple, young man and woman. Another young man and woman. Another young man. We see couples fairly often. This is a family with a small child. This picture was taken in around 2009, I think. This is before this current business of child illegal immigration. Something that people should know is that our concept of what is an adult and the poor people in Central America's concept of what is an adult is not the same. We believe that a person is an adult when they're in the 18 to 21-year-old range, depending on what privileges of citizenship you get. When in Central America, they believe that the average person, and that this is sort of the poorer working class, believes that a child is an adult or can start taking adult responsibilities like a full-time job when they're 14 years old. Okay? This is a very different concept than we have. And so that's something that the American public doesn't really understand, I don't think. We have always seen large numbers of teenagers in that 14 to 18-year range come up here, both young men and young women. This is normal. Okay. What is not normal is to have we have little children that come up, but they're usually with their mom or dad or both, or maybe a larger family group even than that. What we are seeing what we have been seeing recently that is different is that we have unaccompanied small minors coming into South Texas. This is a local phenomenon, and I'll go into that later in the talk if anybody's interested in that. But that is a little bit different. We don't see, according to the vicars, we haven't seen any of these unaccompanied minors coming around our checkpoint. That hasn't happened. They usually turn themselves in right at the border, or they're apprehended right at the border, or very close. And that's a good thing, actually, because they don't have any business coming out through here. It's too difficult. There's too many. It's too easy to get lost. And it'd be awful. This is a family with a young girl. She's probably maybe 10, and her mother and father. These are young women, and I think these are all young women except him. We don't really get to know much about human trafficking. When we see them, they are just young females with men, and we turn them in just like everybody else. And so there's a lot about their stories individually that we're not privy to. It's like many other things. We just don't. We don't know. Everybody gets turned in. There are cases where the guides, and possibly some of the men walking along, rape the women and throw their clothes up on bushes. This has happened. The women fare badly. This is, boy, it's pathetic, really. What got this all started was Ms. Vickers came out one day and her dogs were playing with something in the yard in front of the house, and it was this. This is a skull of a young female. They later found this, and they eventually found enough bones where they put this together. And it was a young, thought to be a young female, and she probably died within about 300 yards of the Vickers house. And her body just lay out there and was ravaged by animals and one thing and another. There's another body. Many people going through Brooks County, especially in the summer, die of heat stroke. This is quite common. Water volunteers didn't find, as my knowledge, hasn't found any this year, but last year they found 2 on 2 separate watches, and they found somebody who was nearly dead, and I don't know if they died or not. They called an emergency and they came out and picked them up. In most cases, they'll just go and sit down next to a tree, lean up against a tree, and usually they have about half a gallon or a quarter of a gallon of tea. They often carry tea with them, sitting next to the body. We always wonder why they drink the tea, but they didn't, and they died. It's terrible. We don't know who they are. They're taken in, and now they're taking DNA, and they're buried in Valfuris with nameless graves. But there have been some problems with that over the years that have made the press. But anyway, that's what happens to them. We are at gun shows around in Texas here, and we raise money that way. We're all volunteer, and the only thing we use our money for is either occasionally we buy a UTV so that we can carry our people out in the field, and we also buy night vision equipment, which is very expensive. We use Gen 3 and thermals, and in some ways we're better equipped than the average Border Patrol officer. They don't have that on the ground. Now, the helicopters have it in spades. They have excellent equipment. The regular Border Patrol officer, they run around with flashlights. But their mission and ours are different. They are there to arrest people, and we are there to observe. And it's better that we not be seen when we observe. I've reported several groups, and I've never been observed. They've never seen me. And there's techniques to that. But hiding is part of it, hiding in a good spot. But anyway, that's the end of this this particular slide group. These are photos, thermal photos of Border Patrol officers making apprehensions, and I'm going to show a much better picture of this if you want to see this. Does anybody have any questions right now?
That's from the helicopter.
Yeah.
The helicopter was taking that.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
pictures.
You can't say on the radio, how far is that ranch from the border?
70 miles. 70
78.
miles. It's interesting, isn't it? This whole area, I have talked to people that have had illegal immigrants group spottings as far north as southern Crockett County, actually some north of Interstate 10 in Crockett County, and some near Fort Stockton out here in West Texas. Down there in South Texas, they go north of this area another maybe 10 or 15 miles in terms of groups out in the woods. There is quite a bit of illegal activity. Surprised, actually. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's your opinion of the effect of this 1,000 National Guards that are being deployed around the border?
I'm not sure what they're doing. It can be effective. The most effective thing historically that I have ever seen the Guard do is several years ago, and I don't know if they're still doing it or not, Governor Perry deployed some Texas National Guard units and helicopters down to, I believe, Brownsville or McAllen. I believe it was McAllen. And they stood with the Border Patrol and the DPS's helicopters. They were very effective. Helicopters are extremely effective. More men, if they can loose more Border Patrol officers from paperwork into doing actual boots on the ground work, that's good. But boy, helicopters are deadly effective. They really are. They're because I'm going to show you a video in just a minute of an apprehension that was made. We had some people that came out, an older couple that were the mother and father of one of our other members, and they were in their 80s. And on their first deal, the older lady spotted the group, and the group proceeded up out of our area, off the ranches, and we don't pursue anyway. And the Border Patrol pursued, and I'll show you the capture. It's shot through the eyes of the helicopter crew, and you can see kind of what happened there. Let me see what that is. Just a second here.
Another thing is to know about your equipment. Could give us a talk. Oh, you're on time. You know, cut no slack, yeah.
This is the
Charles Gary talked for 45 minutes without.
Okay, you guys coming south, you got bodies 10 yards into your
This
left,
is from
and then about 10 yards forward and in. There you go, keep coming. Okay, fan out right there, go straight in, left. That's where your bodies are, they're all in there, straight in.
the term they use
Spread out
is
pretty
bodies
wide, they're all
for
spread out. Yep, you got some right there to your left, a group, and then keep pushing in, there'll be more. You got runners coming to the east side, they're actually going south. You got two runners going south now. Now they're going east. Just go parallel them down the two-track. They're staying in the trees, but just there you go, guys. You're paralleling them. Keep running down the two-track. Keep running down the two-track. No, don't turn in yet. Keep going south. You guys, you two on the east side, keep running south.
These are
We're paralleling them. Keep going. to your right, you got him.
That's,
You have to remember, these guys are working in the dark, and they're just following the instructions from above.
the helicopter can see everything through its thermal camera. And we get to watch this on the ground sometimes, and it's pretty exciting. They been there, seen that a lot, as a matter of fact. But we were not involved with that, except for the initial side. There's something else I might talk about just for a minute, that it occurs to me that I want to talk a little about, this will just take a second, why all this occurs, why all the problems we have on the Mexican border. I've wondered this for years. And first thing is that, and many of you know this, but, and then pardon my little crude little map, but there are cartels across the border that control various entry points in areas of land. They call the areas crossing points plazas, the Mexicans do. And in very South Texas, there is the Gulf Cartel. And they control a very small portion of the border. Formerly, they were much larger than they are now, but they had a falling out with some people, the Zetas, who worked for them. Were a group of Mexican army people that basically are drug people, and they turned them. The Gulf Cartel turned them, and then they had a falling out, and the Zetas grew very rapidly. This border, which goes basically from near Reynosa way down into Mexico, is hotly contested, and the Zetas and Gulf Cartel are at war with each other. Out in West Texas, the Sinaloa Cartel, formerly the Juarez Cartel, controlled Juarez and all of the border up until this mountain range near Big Bend, where the Zetas was sort of the end of the Zeta territory. They got into a war with Sinaloa, which is probably one of the largest cartels in Mexico, and the Sinaloans basically pushed them out of Juarez and shoved them back. And so the Juarez cartel is mostly active. The center of their cartel activity today is Presidio or Oinaga, across from Presidio. Not all of these people are as big into illegal immigration as, not all these cartels do that much illegal immigration, at least in this area. The whole border is not as hot as South Texas. There's something about the Gulf Cartel that one of their main businesses is illegal immigration. That's not so much true. There is illegal immigration, but there's not as much. The Zetas are mostly into drug smuggling. There is some illegal immigration, but it is not one of their big businesses. The Juarez Cartel, since they've been compacted, we're starting to see some illegal immigration from into the Big Bend area and northward from there, centered on the Onaga Plaza that we've not seen before. It was fairly quiet, and there was mostly only drug smuggling that went on there. Our little group in West Texas has been helping some people along this border right in here, the Fort Hancock, Hohen area. And there is illegal immigration across the river there, but it's not big groups like we see in South Texas. It's ones and twos, and they are led sometimes, and sometimes they are just, I think, spotted. There are people on the other side that keep lookouts, that keep track of where the Border Patrol vehicles are, and they just run across the river, which is dry out there right now, and the Border Patrol runs back and tries to catch them, and usually it does in a lot of cases. It doesn't always though. But I'm not sure that those people are illegal immigrants in the sense that these people are coming up looking for work. These guys may just be, for one reason or another, dark reason probably, moving back and forth across the U.S.-Mexican border. There are also drugs. San Angelo is big into drug smuggling, and there's a lot of drugs being smuggled across that border area out there. I saw a truck exit the United States here last month, and it was the first time I've ever had that happen. We were right down near the border, and he drove up down some farm roads and up the levee, and with a white American car following him, and down, and he went into Mexico, and that was that. It's a black Dodge pickup truck, and it was an interesting experience. I've never seen it in person before. Anyway, that's about all I have with that. More questions? Yes.
You showed a picture of a gentleman sitting in the woods in his chair.
Yes.
And he does that at night?
Yes.
I've heard of these illegals coming across. How many of them are armed, and how much danger is he in?
I've done this for, I don't know, 7 years past, something like that? 9 years. And I don't, firstly, if they get caught with firearms, the only one that would have firearms would be the guy, okay? And if the guy gets caught with firearms, it's an escalation of the sentence. It's far more serious. And I have never seen anyone carry firearms down there except the Border Patrol. Now, drug smugglers are an entirely different deal. It's not uncommon, we've seen this, for a drug smuggler, for a team that's carrying drugs, you usually have a group of people with big backpacks carrying drugs, and they'll have people in front of them and behind them without big backpacks. And we usually call the ones carrying mules. The other guys are guards, and it's not clear whether those guys are to keep the little mules in line, or whether they're there to protect their shipment from being robbed. And those guys often are armed. But our policy with drug smuggling is we just kind of go to ground and call Border Patrol and let them handle that. There's no way we want to get involved with those people.
How near is his next buddy?
The type of the mule?
No, the guy that's sitting in his chair out there.
Generally, when I go out, I try to stay within a few hundred yards of my partner.
I don't think I'd want to be very far from my buddies.
It depends on your experience, okay? Yeah, and also how good you are at hiding. Okay, there is a lot to be said for hiding. You want to see them before they see you.
Right.
And there's ways of doing that in those months. This one.
What would it take to secure the border? This doesn't look like it's very secure from what you've been describing. Is it possible? It is possible.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
I've been on the Israel-Syria border, and it's secure.
Yes, and I think it is possible to secure it. shocked me when we started filling these people in El Paso is the fact that I thought that whole valley, the whole Rio Grande Valley, up until the mountains was fenced. It's not. They've built fences 7 miles on each side of the legal border crossings, and there are gaps. And our issue out there is the gap. There's a lot of activity in the gap. It's a real lively place all through the night and even in the day. We need to, out there, we need to fence it. In the country down south of us, where the Rio Grande is in a deep canyon, I think fencing is just a waste of money. I think the rest of the border, beyond Amistad, probably needs, all of it needs to be fenced. I think fencing will help us. It has worked with the Israelis fairly well. They've got some problems with people burrowing under, and so have we. But it's less of a problem for us in Texas because we have a river on top of it. But I think we can do it. I don't think there's a national will to do this. I think that's part of the problem.
Political will.
Yeah, political. It's more political than, yeah, maybe more political than citizens. Yeah.
Well, I had a friend say that when they were stationed in South Korea during the war, the North Koreans would try to come down.
Yes.
They'd shoot over their head once, and the second time they shot to kill.
Yes.
They tried to permeate their border.
Yes.
Now, this friend thinks that we need to do this. How do you feel about that? I mean, we need to...
I'm against most of these people, all kinds of people enter our country illegally. Some of them are on the lam from the other cartel and need to leave because if they stay there, they will be killed. There are other people that are simply looking for a job here, and I'm not actually, I'm for closing the border, but I hope to gosh we don't have to go to some kind of drastic methods like mining the border. I've heard that, or other things. I'm against all that. I think that we can do it with Border Patrol, a lot of helicopters, and they're using aerostats down there, portable aerostats, and they work quite well. They're quite effective. And I think we can continue to do that. I think some, like this is me thinking anyway, but I think some kind of military backup probably would be possibly necessary. I don't know that we don't have that now, actually. It's hard to know. But the problem, I've got another slide that I want to go through too. I'm not really sorry with the slide, it shows my name. To understand what's going on with us and Mexico, I'm talking about specifically Texas, we need to we are the only state in the Union that has a foreign policy with another country separate from that of the United States. All other states in the Union just do whatever it is the national policy is. Texas does not do that, or has historically not done that. And this kind of goes back to our history. As we all know, in 1836, we declared our independence from Mexico. Many American immigrants came into Texas. It's hard to know whether that was legal or illegal, but they did. And purchased land, and also the Hispanic people, the Mexican people that lived here, joined in with that revolution. On May 14th of 1836, we had the Battle of San Jacinto, and the Treaty of Velasco established the Republic of Texas. And the Texas-Mexico boundary was not formed. In 1845, the U.S. Congress passed a joint resolution annexing Texas, and the Texans approved in 1845 the annexation. So we joined the United States. In 29th of December 1845, we became a state. In 1846, the next year, the Battle of Palo Alto near Brownsville begins the U.S.-Mexican War. In 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ends the war with Mexico and establishes the present U.S.-Mexican border. Mexico gave up claims for New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and California. They are all taught this in school, that the Mesoamericans came down and took half their country. We have forgotten this as a people. They have not forgotten, and they do not forgive us. So whatever happens to us up here, it's just like a pox be upon us. And that's one reason why when the drug cartels come and want to pay their politicians off to smuggle drugs in and hurt the Americans, it's okay with them. And this is something to remember. We will never, and not in my lifetime or even in yours, we will never, I think, have a friendly relationship with Mexico like we have with Canada. It isn't going to happen. In 1861, Texas secedes and joins the Union, and in 65, the Civil War ends. Texas rejoins in 1866, and in 1874, Reconstruction ends with the first Democratic governor of Texas. In 1911, the Mexican Civil War spills over the U.S. border with raids into Texas by Mexican bandits. Okay, it's not quite as simple as that. There was a series of revolutions in Mexico, and a fellow named President Madero was assassinated in Mexico City, and Venustiano Carranza, I believe I have his name correct, became the president of Mexico in a coup. We did not recognize the Mexican government at that time, and Mexico was wooed by the Germans, but Mexico needed, because of that, we basically embargoed them, and they, yes, people are walking out. But anyway, we embargoed them, and they responded with a thing called the Edict of San Diego. Basically, it was a document that was written in Mexico, but supposedly written in Texas, that was to try to get the Hispanic American citizens, the Black American citizens, and the Native American citizens to revolt against the Anglos and form a different country down here in Texas and New Mexico. In order to make this happen, Mexican cavalry changed their uniforms and started raiding ranches in South Texas. And they would go in and raid, and they would kill the Anglo owners and their children and their wives and everybody, and even slaughter their cattle sometimes. And this went on for several years. Finally, in 1914, for different reasons completely, Pancho Villa raided Columbus, New Mexico. And it went badly, really, for Pancho Villa. But a battle ensued, but it got the attention of the federal government. And so they started pursuing, and the army they started bringing army troops down here, and we sort of got the border under control. Also, though, one of the reasons we got out of control, we started going back into Mexico after the raiders. That's one of the things. And the other thing is we granted relations, or had established relations with the Carranza government, which may have also been part of this. And so things kind of calmed down after that. In 1919, Prohibition was passed. And this whole smuggling thing really got going during Prohibition. And the grandfathers, or 4 generations back or whatever, of the cartel members, many of them were were smugglers, especially the ones south of us, were smugglers before. And this is their way of life, and it's gone on for years. And that's what we're doing. That's all I got on that. But you can kind of understand why things are the way they are. That's all I've got. Questions? Yes?
We know that the borders and our state troopers and various organizations have been put under gag orders. Have y'all been asked to not release certain details or information?
Not that I know of.
Well, yeah, and when we take pictures, we're asked not to reveal the faces of the border agents.
Oh, the branch owners.
Yeah, when we take pictures out of the illegals, if the Border Patrol agents are there, then we're asked not to reveal their faces, which is, we abide by that because we have a really good relationship with the Border Patrol. They appreciate what we're doing. They appreciate that we're the extra eyes and ears down there. And they have said many times that they appreciate us being there because we follow their rules. And we have strict rules of what we can and what we can't do. We cite and report to the Border Patrol, and they come out and apprehend. We don't have any contact with the illegals because 9 years ago when we started this, the illegals were kind of mild-mannered. If they came up on you, or the Border Patrol came up on them, they would just automatically sit down and give up. The ones that are coming across now are more, they're more likely to fight back or run.
Aggressive.
Yes.
Far more.
And if I might briefly tell you a story that happened to Linda Vickers just a couple of weeks ago, I guess, a week or two ago. Linda does not leave her house without a gun, without a radio, and without her 4 best friends. And her 4 best friends are 2 giant German Shepherds and 2 other big dogs of some other mix. But they follow her everywhere she goes when she goes out on the ranch. She trains horses, so when she goes down to her stables and her attack room, one of those dogs, or all the dogs really, are trained to go in and sniff out any illegals that might be in there because they tend to go in and hide or sleep there overnight. But about a week or so ago, Linda was at home. She got a call from the ranch hands that were working out in the field. They said that there was an illegal out there harassing them and causing them problems and threatening them. So she immediately called the Border Patrol. Then she got in her pickup and drove out to where they were. There was this one illegal, and she got up to him, and he ran up a tree. Of course, I think the dogs might have helped him. But because as soon as they drove up, those dogs, Linda said those dogs started getting excited because they knew, they sniffed that illegal. So anyway, he went up the tree, and so she walked up to him, and she was, you know, he started just cussing her out, using every foul language that you can imagine of, in Spanish. Well, of course, she understood Spanish, and so she started turning it right back on him and started speaking Spanish back to him. Well, he was threatening her, and of course the hands were back over on the side, away from it, but they were close by. But this guy was, she said he was kind of crazy acting, so he could have been on drugs. But anyway, he went up the tree and he pulled off a branch and started trying to hit her with it and tried to hit the dogs with it. Well, that didn't work, so he came down and he got some brush and tried to set fire to it. Well, it wasn't going very well, and so he pulled out a can of some kind of spray that he sprayed at them and then lit a match, trying to make a torch out of it. Well, here Linda is out there by herself. Of course, she's got her gun. She's got a taser. She used the taser not on him, but she just buzzed it to let him know that she had a taser. And when he tried to start that fire, of course, it could have ended up, you know, setting fire to the whole range. So she called the Border Patrol back and told him that he was trying to set fire out there. So of course that hurried him up a little bit more, so they sent a helicopter and to find out to locate him. And then they directed the Border Patrol into where Linda and this guy was. Well, this guy was just really out of it. And, but here, this is the kind of thing that she puts up with every day. They come up into her yard, they come up to her door and ring her doorbell wanting help. They do not have peace down there. All of those ranchers down there live with weapons and radios and telephones and maybe tasers, no telling what all, because they have to. They can't live in peace down there as long as those illegals are coming up through there. And this is something that all of y'all can help with your organization. It is going to take us to get something done. We have already seen what Congress can and can't do, or will and won't do.
Won't do.
Won't do. But they will if enough voices will stand up to them. And that's what we did when we started 9 years ago as the Minutemen. That was our main goal, to get the attention of the media, the public, the government, and let them know that the borders were out of control. This was 9 years ago, and it was already out of control then. Our main goal was to get the attention and then get the government to do something. Well, we got their attention, but now getting them to do something is a bigger challenge. And this is something that these groups like yours can do. You can talk to your legislators, hammer them just heavy to let them know that you're tired of this, that it's nonsense. They have let this go on for years, and we've had enough. So this is something that you can really do, and something that since the Tea Party started in '09, I have noticed the noise is, they're hearing it. They're hearing it in Washington. Now we were out there in '05 and we were begging people to come out and letting them know that the borders were terrible. They were out of control. And finally, when the Tea Party started, then they started listening, because the Tea Parties were the voices. And the voices is what they have got to hear. They have got to hear us, because we're the only ones. Because, you know, look at all the years that nothing's been done. So if they're not going to do anything, then we're going to have to make them do it. Demand that they secure that border, no amnesty at all. We tried that in 1986, and it just brought all these millions more in. Bill Clinton did 6 more amnesties in the 90s, with several hundred, well, probably 3 or 4 million more than he amnestied during his 8 years. And now they're trying to do another amnesty. Well, every time they start talking about amnesty, this is when we get this surge coming. Because I noticed in May of 2012, the numbers of other than Mexicans, OTMs, doubled. The Mexican numbers went down, but the OTMs went up. And every month since May of 2012, they have been doubling. And now we're seeing what our porous borders are doing. And they're letting it happen. We're letting it happen because we're not demanding something be done. So this is what you guys can do. I think you probably do political issues. You're involved in political issues, trying to get certain people elected and all that. Well, this is one thing that you can ask these people that you're trying to get elected. How do you feel about the border? Do you want to secure the border, or do you want to give amnesty? And that should be your determining factor right there as to whether you want them as your legislator or your politician or your man or woman in office. Because if they want amnesty, we don't need them. We've already been there, been down that road, been that, done that, and it didn't work. And anybody that says that that's the only thing we can do, no, it's not. No, it's not. But it's up to us to get it done, because 5 years, 6 years, going on 6 years, and what's happened? Nothing. We had a National Guard on our border in 2006. They did not carry, if they carried guns, they didn't carry ammunition. They were there for looks. What they were doing on the border for tax payments, we were doing for free. As volunteers, we pay for everything we do, everything we buy, every penny we spend is our money. But the National Guard is getting paid for doing the same thing that we do. But they could be a deterrent, but while they were some help in '06, basically they were just there for looks. Because on the Arizona border, they had to back off. If they were approached by any illegals, they had to back off and call in the Border Patrol. Well, that's what we do. So this is just something, Raph and I have been doing this since '05. We started in October of '05 when we had our first month-long border watch down in South Texas on the Vickers Ranch. And we've been doing this for 9 years. So we've seen these people coming up through here. In Brooks County, this is only one county down in South Texas that we work in, because that's the county that the ranch is in, the county that the highway checkpoint is in, and Falfurrias is in. And this is, if we've got, I think it was last month we had in June, I believe there was over 2,000 just in that one county that were apprehended. And only about half of the illegals coming up through that area, only half are apprehended. So if they caught 2,000, then the other 2,000 are somewhere across the country. So if there's 1 million people coming in on that border down there, another 1 million are already here somewhere. They're coming through, they're getting through. And that border down there is wide open. The Border Patrol have boats. They have speedboats down there. If you've seen on TV, if you watch Fox, and you've seen the boats that they have down there that are armed, highly armed. A few years ago, when we first started this, the border sheriffs were defending their borders along their border states down there with pea shooters, with just rifles and handguns, while the smugglers coming across there had AK-47s. Well, of course, when they were coming across the dry bed in southwest part, when they were driving across there with loads of marijuana, the sheriffs and the Border Patrol will have to back off because they didn't have the manpower or the weapons to fight back. But when Perry came in a few years later, and the government provided, I think it was like $400 million or something like that. And they started putting cameras down there that didn't work at first. Then they started arming them with bigger weapons, better equipment. Then they came in and hired a lot more border agents. But it was only until we got out there and started telling them how bad it was, did they start paying attention. So this is what everybody else can do. You can help us by speaking out to your legislators that are going to be working in Washington, even the ones that are going to be working in Austin. We tried for several years to get Austin to pass some bills to go down there and secure that border. And the House Speaker in Austin ignored us. He did like Crazy Harry. He blocked them. until they died. So we did get through. I mean, if Dan Patrick gets through this time and Greg Abbott gets through this time, they have assured us that they will do everything in their power to secure our border. And this is what we've got to keep reminding them of. If they start backing off from it, say, hey, I've got some good TV ads of you saying that you're going to secure that border. So you want to see them? We'll remind you of it, because that's how important it is. If Washington won't secure our borders, then we've got to get Boston to secure our borders and shut down the sanctuary cities.
We're out of time. Thank you all for listening to us. We'll be around for a little while longer if anybody has any other questions. Thanks.
Thank you all. Hey, you know, actually, Pat brought up a real good point there. I really think that now our option is through Austin. I don't have any faith in this administration to do anything about the border. And when my congressman at the Republican picnic tells me that the border's not the Congress's job,
Right.
I don't know where we go, but you were there, Don. The exact words.
Yep.
Exact words.
Yep.
So I don't know where we go from there but Austin. I just don't have any faith we're going to get the federal government to do it. So I think when, you know, if they're not going to honor the contract of the Constitution and do it, I think we have every right to do it ourselves, and I think that's what we're going to have to do. Plus, we got a lot more say in Austin. It's a lot closer. So, I know how Charles feels about all this, and in this Senate race, and he's been here and visited with us about it. So, and that's something that's important to everybody. But I really think concentrate on your state. I think that's our hope here now. But anyway, feel free to visit with them. Y'all can stick around a little while. Everybody visit. But don't forget, Vic will be here next time. I think that'll be a really, really interesting meeting. So bring a friend.